Welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. No doubt you've been hearing about record low mortgage rates for the last few years, but did you know last week the average rate for a 30-year fixed loan fell to 3.43%? That is near the record low reached in November. The average rate on a 15-year fixed loan dipped to 2.65%. Jeannie Goldie is with Wells Fargo right here in Atlanta. Thank you for joining us. And you know, we've been hearing some different things over the last couple of years that buyers have to bring more money to the table for down payments. Is that actually the case?
Well, not entirely. There have been a lot of changes. And what I think most people will experience is they'll be asked for a lot more paperwork. If you've ever applied for a loan before, you're going to feel like you're being asked for much more paperwork than you're being asked for before. But you don't necessarily have to have 20% down.
Oh, that's because I think a lot of people believe they do have to have 20% down.
And I even see it commonly quoted in the media. But there are loan programs that allow you to have as little. We have one that allows as little as 2% down. Another one at 3.5%, FHA, common program used a lot of times for first-time home buyers, but you don't have to be one. And several other programs will even allow 5% down. What you do have to be able to show is that you have the ability and willingness to repay the loan. And that's what we're asking for all the paperwork for. We're trying to help understand your whole financial picture and make sure that when you get that dream home, some of the beautiful homes we heard about that are being built today, or a nice resale, you're going to be able to stay in it and thrive.
Well, also too, with the crash, a lot of people had some foreclosures, and the question some people are going to have is that going to really be held against them, seeing as how so many people went through that? Is that really going to prevent them from getting a home this time? Foreclosures
and short sales and other types of modifications will affect your ability to buy immediately. No doubt about it. But it's not a life sentence.
Okay.
What they want to see is that after the foreclosure happened, and the amount of time will be anywhere, usually it's around 3 years, sometimes a little bit more. Okay. It depends on what loan product you're using, what size loan you're getting going forward. But what they're looking for is that after that unfortunate moment in time, what did you do to try to right your financial ship? Did you manage your money responsibly? Did you do everything you could to get, you know, your finances in order? And when you show that you have been responsible with your finances for a period of time, you will be able to get another loan. Yes, it's going to affect your credit score. It will affect how fast you can get another mortgage. Right. But as long as, you know, if your foreclosure happened today, spend the next 3 years building a really responsible financial picture, and you'll be able to really start talking about buying a home again soon.
Well, just going by what we've heard earlier today and just in the news, now seems to be a great time to go buy a house, right?
You know, it is a great time to buy a house, and it's a little different than even if you were trying to buy a home 6 months ago. We work with a lot of first-time home buyers because one of the things we do is we have a lot of down payment programs that also come and cover the down payment for a first-time home buyer. And one of the things when we first noticed was they were coming back to us saying, there are people bidding against me on homes, which nobody was expecting a few months ago. And as we talked with some of the realtors earlier, there is a real difference in the market than even just 6 months ago. Many times a home will go on the market and there'll be multiple bids for it, and this can be a resale or a new home. So it's different that way. It's different in qualifying for a mortgage than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it's an exciting time to be buying a house, but you have to be prepared. You know, wear your track shoes, be ready to go, and be serious. It's not something where you can kind of float an offer and say, well, let me offer 50% of what they're asking for this house. That market, that's gone. At least in Atlanta, that's been gone for a while. And right now, you might find that you're winding up offering more than the asking price. So you want to make sure you know exactly how much you can afford, and that's where we come in.
And typically, people go and they fall in love with the house they want, but they need to, I'm assuming they need to focus on the details, such as how do you know if you're getting a good interest rate?
Right. Well, you know, the first thing you want to do, if you're thinking about buying a house, you want to go out and figure out how much mortgage you can truly qualify for. And there's how much mortgage you can qualify for on paper, and if the loan officer says you can qualify for, say, a $1,200 a month payment, you want to make sure that you're comfortable actually making $1,200. If you've been renting for $800 a month, that's a little bit of a difference. So you want to make sure you're able to do that. And the other thing you want to do is make sure you're getting a good loan, that you understand the loan. One of the things we do at Wells Fargo is we give our borrowers options. We will present to them 2 or 3 loan products that could fit their needs, and it'll show them different payments, different features of those loan products. It might show them if you're going to do a 30-year fixed versus a 15-year or an adjustable rate. And it also will show them different things like a conventional loan or a government loan. These are all different types of loan products. And it helps if you really have an understanding. For example, if you're planning on staying in the home for 10 years, you love Atlanta, this is your neighborhood, this is where you want to stay, that is a different scenario than somebody who gets moved every 3 years for their job. If you're thinking of starting a family, and right now it's just, say, the two of you, maybe a small condo would be absolutely perfect, but if you may not want to be in a loan where you're going to have an adjusted rate or something in a few years if you know you're going to be leaving right away. So it's one of those things you want to sit down and make an informed choice. So the first thing I would say before buying any house is go find out, sit down with a banker, with a mortgage consultant, find out how much home loan you qualify for. That's going to make you the strongest buyer too, because they will actually give you, we call it our priority buyer letter, but they will give you something that tells your realtor, tells the builder, this person truly qualifies. Okay. Their credit's been examined, they can really afford to buy this house, and that's going to make your bid stronger. And in this competitive bidding, they know you can do this, that the bank has said yes.
So what are we looking at in terms of the difference in interest rate from, like, let's say a year ago to now?
Well, interest rates have moved around quite a bit. They were a little higher a year ago, and what I always say is I never predict interest rates, because I can tell you they can change in the middle of the day sometimes. But right now, about 3.4, 3.5, 3.2 has been about where it's been for a 30-year fix, and it is a little bit lower for a 15-year, and a 15-year is worth looking at because you'd be surprised how much you save. And there's not as big a difference in the payment for 15 years sometimes as a 30 years you might think.
Wow. Okay. And what about getting help for buyers who may not be able to save some money over the next year while they're looking for a house?
One of the most exciting things is that there are down payment assistance programs. And what the down payment assistance program does is it helps, particularly usually first-time home buyers, but sometimes you don't have to be a first-time home buyer, to get that down payment money, and helps them with down payment and closing costs money. In the city of Atlanta, we actually help sponsor the Neighborhood Lift program, which provides up to $15,000 for people to buy homes inside the city limits of Atlanta. And that is a great program. We've already had 150 people buy homes with that. We have room for another 150 to use that. That's a great opportunity. That can make the difference between being able to buy your dream home, being able to get that home exactly where you want it. And what's great is seeing Atlanta revitalized with this. We have home buyers throughout the city of Atlanta. Every quadrant of the city of Atlanta, we've had home buyers. We have people in West End, we have people on the north side, we have people on the south side, we have people in East Atlanta. It's so exciting to see people get that first home. So there are down payment programs, Neighborhood Lift in the city of Atlanta, and then there are programs for all the surrounding counties. In the Atlanta MSA, almost every county has a program, or the state has a program that buyers can use.
Now, you mentioned before you go into a bank and they'll sort of tell you how much you're qualified for, but before you do that, is there a way to sort of figure out on your own, like, about what you really can afford?
I think there's one of the best things you can do before you even go into the bank, because they're going to ask you for a lot of this information, is sit down and look at your debts. Sit down and look at your credit cards, your car payment, what your salary is.
They'll give you a headache, though, right?
Well, it's one of those things, there's headaches, and you can give yourself a little reward. If you're like me, you want to procrastinate certain things, you say, okay, I will sit down and look at this for an hour, and then I'm going to go have a hot fudge sundae. But, and everybody's going, yeah, she's had a few. So what you do is you sit down and you gather up all your debts, and you say, okay, how much do I have to pay to MasterCard each month? How much is my car payment? What does my student loan look like? When you add those all up, and you take that, you can take that from your net take-home pay. Say, okay, how much does that realistically leave for me? And where am I spending the rest of the money? Some people like to kind of keep a notebook and say, okay, how much do I really spend, on coffee, on movies, on going out on Friday night? But looking at your financial picture, I always say sit down and gather up all that information before you go meet with your banker too, because you'll know what your situation is. And then some people like to use rules of thumb, of, okay, no more than 2 times your salary. But what I find is that it's always an individual process. I can give you an easy rule of thumb, but your financial situation may mean you may have big student loans, or you may have had a lot of credit card debt, or you may have no credit card debt, or you may take MARTA and you don't have a car payment, and that's very different than somebody who has a $500 a month car payment who might be making the same salary. Sure. But gather up that financial information so that you personally know how much money is going in and out every month, and that's going to help you make the best decision.
Jeannie, thank you so much. A lot of great information there that our viewers can take and hopefully help them get a new house if that's what they want to do.
Well, thanks so much. It's been exciting to hear about what's going on in Atlanta. I look forward to seeing Atlanta rise again.
All right, Jeannie, thank you so much.